I still can't believe that what essentially boils down to self-insert Formula One RPF is being made into a movie with a budget reportedly somewhere in the region of $300 million. Kia ora, my name's Kimmy and I talk about F1 in the world's second worst accent, and I'm very aware that most of my audience probably isn't as terminally online as I am and has no idea what I'm talking about when I say self-insert RPF. So I'll give you a one-line primer. It's that thing that mostly women and girls like to write and post on the internet that you'll make fun of. Now, I'm not here to roast people who just want to have a good time on the net and post their lovingly crafted I got sold to One Direction Mary Sue fantasies. It's not for me, but you do you. Just keep it to the right websites and don't go sharing it on Main, where anyone who doesn't frequent those very specific corners of the internet won't see it, and we're cool. I myself have certainly been known to write my fair share of fanfic in my time. I used to have a whole stand-up routine that revolved around making the audience uncomfortable by sharing my love of writing stories about Iron Man and Captain America getting frisky. Not ashamed to admit it, wear it as a badge of honour, and it's a great conversation opener when you're trying to figure out if someone's a judgmental asshole. And at this point, I kind of just hope you're watching still out of some kind of sense of morbid curiosity. I promise I will get to some kind of point. Now, the whole concept of these kind of fanfic-esque films isn't exactly new. Films like The Idea of You and Red, White and Royal Blue have been speculated to originate from that specific form of fiction, and although these claims have now been mostly debunked, there's still a very particular vibe you get when it's obvious someone cut their teeth writing One Direction RPF as a 22-year-old. I mean, the book 50 Shades of Grey is based off is famously a Twilight fanfiction with the serial numbers filed off. What all these films have in common, though, is that they're never really considered serious, despite The Idea of You being directed by the absolutely sublime Michael Showalter, and almost exclusively are marketed toward women. Sure, men might watch and enjoy them, but they're not the specific target audience in mind when the studio executives are doing their market share presentations. What makes the F1 movie different is that this is the first time in my memory I can recall such a high-profile, blatant self-insert fantasy being marketed predominantly toward men. And by self-insert fantasy, I'm specifically talking about that of its star, not of the audience. And instead of it having a relatively mid-range budget or just being flat out an indie film, it's a huge big blockbuster. Basically, a 60-year-old man said, I want to be an F1 driver and I want it to exist within the realms of our current real-world motorsport landscape, and a whole bunch of people threw money at it and made it happen. Now, I'm not planning on spending any of my own dosh to watch this movie. I will definitely watch it because I desperately want to roast it, but I'm not giving Brad Pitt any of my hard-earned cash for reasons I won't be elaborating on here. If you know, you know. And I understand the irony, considering I give my hard-earned cash to a sport that's mired in controversy and scandals, and am a fan of sports people who can be kind of shitty at times and more than likely have vastly diverging political opinions to mine. But that's a certain level of cognitive dissonance I'm prepared to accept in myself to enable my addiction. So no, I won't be seeing F1 in cinemas, but as someone who's been deeply entrenched in certain corners of online fandom for decades, I will get my dirty little hands on a copy at some point, and I will share with you every single way that this film reeks of legitimized fanfic. Which isn't necessarily an issue or a bad thing when it's taken out of context, but considering F1 has been made entirely by people I can only assume don't really have much awareness of how exceptionally funny this whole damn thing is, I'm fairly certain it won't have the reverence for and the ability to hang a few lampshades on those classic tropes that is needed for it not to come across as extremely cringe. And let's be honest, even that first trailer had most of the F1 fan community watching it with their eyes half covered in secondhand embarrassment. When you open a teaser trailer for a movie that purports to be thoroughly researched and has taken on extensive feedback from a 7-time world champion who's also a producer with a crack about not giving a shit about safety, there's no way anyone who knows more than the surface level about Formula One or any kind of motorsport is going to take you seriously. And that, I think, is the problem. We are not the audience. This whole movie owes its supposed realism to Liberty and FOM's opportunistic idea to leverage it as a marketing ploy, which on a certain level, mate, I respect the hustle. Oh sure, they can talk about how Lewis Hamilton was heavily involved in helping to guide certain aspects of faithfulness to the sport, but let's not bury our heads in the sand here. F1 allowing filming during Grand Prix weekends is fundamentally about FOM being aware that the more legitimacy they can give this production from a surface level, the more buzz there is around the fact, around Lewis, around real F1 drivers appearing as characters in the movie, the more likely it is to have an actual effect on the sport's viewership. Nobody cares if we, you and me, the existing fans, don't like it. All they care about is that the hyperbolic narrative and the action intrigues enough people who know nothing about F1 but want to go and see the latest Brad Pitt picture to then go and get interested enough to buy an F1 TV or Sky or whatever subscription, attend a race, buy merch, become a new fan. I guarantee somewhere in the beginning of the credits, before an inevitable after credits scene that would have had just enough leaked about it for people to want to stick around, there will be an ad for your local way of watching F1 on streaming. F1 the movie is another feather in the cap of Formula One's marketing department, just like Drive to Survive was. The difference between DTS and F1 though is that DTS was a sleeper hit initially that mostly gained traction thanks to COVID lockdowns and our desperate need to binge anything we could find to stop ourselves from going stir crazy. It didn't cost us anything more than our time because Netflix already had us by the short and curlies. I say had because good lord we've just come full circle back to the cable/pay TV experiences of our childhoods, haven't we? Bruckheimer and Pitt's F1 has been directly marketed repeatedly to existing F1 fans by way of official F1 broadcasts. We've been subjected to seeing Pitt's face on the regular, constantly reminded that this movie is happening, and news sites are regularly sharing updates and release timelines. F1 news sites, not film sites. They know they're going to make bank from the existing fan base, and I think we're probably mostly going to hate it. But that doesn't matter because they know they're not going to lose fans of the sport by making us all intrigued enough to drop $30 on a ticket to see a mediocre, reportedly $300 million film where we get to watch an A-list actor who probably should have been cancelled for some reason but hasn't yet fulfill his three-quarter life crisis fantasies. And if you're wondering why I kept saying reportedly, it's because Bruckheimer and co have refuted the numbers and apparently the 300 million is way off, but I don't know man, it all just sounds like accounting shenanigans to me. Anyway, I'll be honest, if it weren't for Pitt making this thing, I might be a little bit more generous. I might be more inclined to want to like it if it was someone like Michelle Yeoh or Halle Berry or Kate Blanchett who decided they had the burning urge to see their late middle-aged selves on screen as the pair of actual real-life Formula One drivers and then had a crack at using their significant A-list resources to make it all happen. But there's no way that film would have ever been made, and we all know it. So what's the point of this video? I don't know, man. Maybe it's me giving everyone pause for a moment. Take a good hard look at how a genre of fiction that's usually ridiculed because it's considered the realm of weird girls on the internet, of who I freely admit to being, let me be clear, is only legitimized when it's under the guise of a Hollywood blockbuster vehicle for an A-list actor. Or maybe it's me just wanting to remind everyone that Brad Pitt allegedly sucks. Thank you so much for watching. I know that this was a little bit different to my normal videos, but you know, sometimes I like to show you a little bit more of who I am, which, to be completely honest, is a bit of a freak. So take of that what you will. If you do like my videos, please make sure you remember to click the subscribe button. I am still trying to go for that 1,000 subscribers. It's looking a very, very long way off at the moment, but cross fingers, maybe this might get to a different kind of audience. If you like this video, click the like button. If you didn't like it, go ahead and click the dislike button. I don't care, it's still a click. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Ka kite.